There, okay.
Okay, real life.
Okay, hello everybody. We are back again this week with another Opportunities in Biodiversity talk. So today, myself, Lisa, and Yoko will be talking about our experience in the International Youth Internship Program. So this program is federally funded through the Canadian government, and what they do is they give out several different organizations money in order to send individuals abroad. So they're usually, under normal circumstances, have 2 intake periods for the year, but it's kind of unclear as to what's going to happen due to COVID. So just make sure you stay tuned and keep checking out the International Youth Internship Program pages. So if you just Google them, you'll be able to find them. So this program is only for youth. So you have to be between the ages of 19 and 30 in order to participate. And for the particular one that the three of us did with Memorial University, you must have either a bachelor's degree or some sort of diploma. So there are some educational qualifications that you need in order to apply. And so the internship through Memorial in the past has gone to Belize, the Philippines, Vietnam, Tanzania, and Cambodia. However, there have been a little bit of changes in locations in the past couple of years. So the only ones I think that are still solidified, Lisa, you said, were Vietnam, the Philippines, and Belize.
Actually, yeah.
Right, yeah. So it's still a little bit unclear as to whether Tanzania and Cambodia will come back on board.
Actually, Belize is also like finishing like next term, so like just one more round. So.
Right, yeah. So this should be the last year of funding for this funding cycle, but they have been refreshed for the past like 10 years or more. I think 20 years maybe. So they should be getting another round of funding. So definitely, if you can't so within the program, there are many different kind of positions that you can fulfill. All are related to the environment and sustainability. So you can go into either gender, food, education, climate change, marine studies, water, like water quality, tourism, or fisheries. Like technology, urban planning kind of positions. So there's a really large variety of what exactly is available and what you can do. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience. So I went 2 years ago in 2018. So July 2018 is when my cohort went. And I'd actually been waiting for the program to reopen for a year because I had found out about it earlier before going to school. So I was really happy when it did open. And I went to Vietnam. So I was in southern Vietnam in a province called Tra Vinh. And I was at the university there doing sustainable agriculture research. So as for how the positions go, the internship really is what you make it, which is something that's important to keep in mind when you're going. When you go, there's not this like super structured format that you're going into. And like you're not going into a project necessarily that is complete or that is ongoing. Sometimes you have to make your own project. That's what I ended up having to do. So I ended up doing 2 projects. So one was doing sustainable agriculture perceptions research with Vietnamese farmers. And for that, I ended up having one of my friends that I made there translate for me, which was which was a lot of fun. And just being on that level of independence. So it really is based on you. If you're not very determined to do it, then it's going to be a little bit difficult to get anything done. So you really have to kind of push if you have ideas. I also did a nanotechnology research component when I was there. So when I was asking around for people that might be interested in helping me, there was one professor in particular who was amazing, and his students helped me out, and I just got a lot of really good experience in that section. So in that way, it was very independent. It was a lot of independent research experience, like completely independent. Like you don't have a professor or a teacher who's worried about you or knows exactly what you want to do. Everything's kind of on you. So from the position standpoint, it was a good experience. It's really independent. I've never been so confused in my entire life, but at the same time, it was an amazing experience, and we made some really great friends, like Vietnamese friends, and we still talk to them even now, 2 years later. So each location gets at least 3 Canadians, so 3 fellow people from your cohort to go with you. And the 2 girls that I went with, we still talk to each other all the time. So you really do build lasting relationships with the people that you go with, and just being able to learn how to like navigate a new culture and learning how to deal with language barriers, learning the different politics or customs of a different country was very valuable, especially because Vietnam is a communist country. There are things that I realized we just weren't allowed to do. So when I wanted to do farmer surveys, I actually had to go through students. So students had to ask farmers because I wouldn't have been able to get government permission to talk to farmers within the amount of time that I was there. So it just kind of really teaches you or opens your eyes to the way that the world functions, or the way how North America and Western culture is very different from other areas of the world. Okay, I'm going to toss it over to Lisa to talk about her experience.
So very similar to Fallon, I went to Vietnam, but I was more towards the central part of Vietnam. I was in a city called Nha Trang, which is famous for its beaches and its ocean side, which is fine because my work involves fisheries management. And actually, I was involved in 2 different projects. So my department head wanted me to study the conflict between tourism and fisheries and aquaculture. So basically what that is that they compete for space and resources in the city on how much money and space they are dedicating to producing food, which is fisheries and aquaculture, and how much to leave for the beaches, for all the tourism in diving and snorkeling. So that was one of my projects. And what's cool was actually during my time in Vietnam, we were also there was this holiday called Tet holiday, which is Vietnamese New Year, and we got about a month off, which then I went to travel to the Philippines, and I kind of brought my project with me to continue looking at fisheries and tourism. And because I'm a diver, I went to a lot of places to dive in Philippines and get to interact with many operators in the industry, and talk to local fishermen and farmers on their view on sharing the space with the dive industry, which is very interesting because as expected, there's always conflicts and a lot of different issues that needs to be solved. My second project is not as exciting as but I learned a lot from it. Is basically studying hatchery techniques involved with mollusks, so like clams and snails. So what happens in Vietnam is because unfortunately, a lot of the fishery is degraded. So they actually relies a lot on aquaculture, and they export a lot of the seafood overseas. So in order to do that, they actually have research facilities to research best ways to get the seeds. So they would basically collect and grow the seeds up to 2 months old before selling off to aquaculture farmers when they will transplant them into the open water, and hence the increasing yield and profit. So that was something I never done before. Doing hatchery work, work a lot with microscope and a lot of water monitoring. You figure out, and of course, there's a lot of economics behind it. I come from more of a research science background. It was interesting talking to people about making money and also providing food and income for the locals. So that was my two main projects. And also, just like I mentioned before, during our Canadian Conservation Court talk, I also brought my cigarette butt campaign to Vietnam. So I did some cleanups and some outreach campaigns while I was in Vietnam. But as Fallon mentioned, the Vietnamese work culture is very different. If you really want something done, you kind of have to keep pushing. You cannot wait for them to decide to give you work. If you're interested in something, you need to ask, you need to keep pushing. They would not just hand work over to you. Yeah, so that was my experience. I'm going to pass it over to Yoko. She was in the same cohort as I am, but she had the experience in Belize instead of Asia.
Yeah, so I was in Belize as a tourist management and gender intern. And my role, well, I was also like, I had the freedom of picking my own topic, anything related to tourism. And actually, I was the only one among 4 interns who had the freedom to do what I wanted. So I was part of the fisheries management intern. Like I was helping her measuring fish and recording the information, and while she was conducting interviews for local fishermen. So my role as tourism management intern was to go find scuba diving tourist vessels, as we were actually working with local stakeholders, and we were traveling through the ocean with their boats, and so we divided our time like 50-50. So the fisheries management was looking for local fishermen. Then my part was looking for the tourist vessels, and we didn't talk to the local operators, but the stakeholder, because they have a relationship with the tourism industry, they talked to the captains, and after we had the permission, I went onto the vessel and talked to the operators and to just have the social economic surveys. And if they allow, I will also talk to the scuba diving tourists to do really simple demographic questions. So that's one side. So during the interview, because it was the end of the year for the social economic survey area, I had to summarize and compile the data and reports written by previous interns, which were 2 cohorts. Then after that, I just came up with, because I'm into environmental policy and marine protect area, which I forgot to say that our working location in Belize was actually in a atoll, which is a marine reserve. And so for that, I was working towards policies and recommendations for future planning for the stakeholder. So basically, my work was for the stakeholder, and this local stakeholder was trying to let interns collect data and help them have suggestions for the future. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So other than that, I also help with other like interns and other supervisors about their work. So basically, my work was actually all of our work, the 4 interns, were in the coastal resilience project. And so the other 3 interns, well, other than fisheries management, it was water quality and climate change. So for climate change, it was basically mangroves and coral reefs. And water quality was just looking for water quality of the water at the atoll. So at the same time, the interns also helped our supervisors their work. One of them was looking at mangroves and counting mangroves and some coral reef identification, which I didn't, but one of the interns did, so she helped that. So in a way, as both Fallon and Lisa said, if we wanted to help, we can ask, but sometimes it doesn't work because every workplace doesn't have like perfect balance of supervisors. Some supervisors were reluctant and some were very really willing to give away their work. So I always say just ask away if you need more work and have time. And it was really great fun. And yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to speak a little bit about some things that I think I missed at the beginning. So, like I said, it's fully funded by the government. And what that means is that your accommodation is fully funded, or you'll get a stipend to pay for your accommodation. So where I was staying in Vietnam, our accommodation was free. It was donated by the university. But in other locations, they'd make you pay out of the money that they give you to find your accommodations. Also, all your food is paid for. So how it works is they just give you a lump sum of money, and then you can do whatever you want with that money. So I know that there were some of us who tried to spend as little money as possible, and there were others who just spent all of their money. While you're there. On weekends and stuff, you can go on excursions. So you don't necessarily have to stay put exactly where you are all the time. Like your supervisors are really flexible and kind of and open. Like we said, you really got to push if you want to get that work done. Another thing that I'm not sure if they did for other cohorts, but they did for mine, is that towards the end of our internship, Global Affairs Canada gave every participant $200 to spend on a project in country. Did you guys get that too?
We were like $500 per
We
four.
get $500 for community engagement, but that's for both in country and in Canada. But because we got repatriated due to COVID, many of them did not do community engagement.
Yeah, we didn't do that in business.
Yeah, I was the only one in my in Vietnam that did mine.
Okay, that's good, because so my cohort got $200, and what we ended up doing is we pooled our money together. So 600 Canadian is a lot of it's I don't know, several million in Vietnamese dong. And we were able to establish an agroforestry research site in the agricultural land that the university owned. So that was a really amazing project, and I'd worked so much with the farmers there that it was just really a really special experience for all of us.
Okay, I will do the Belize side. So in Belize, the Belize was not cheap at all as Vietnam. Can be comparable to Canada, and we didn't get any accommodation fee or food. So I will say we actually probably spent more money than what they provided. So I will say it depends on the location.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I got to one. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to message us at Simon. which is Canadian Youth Biodiversity Network. We will be happy to answer. I will be happy to answer your questions.
Me too.
Belen and Yoko
Yeah.
will be
What?
around to answer questions for a few more minutes, I think.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them now. Maybe about like the application process, about the other individuals who we worked with. If you have anything you would like to ask, feel free. So Yoko, what was the general feedback that your cohort gave to the program? What were some common topics that came up from everybody?
Feedback from my cohort?
Yeah.
Well, I think depends because, well, I forgot to say, like, we also make some friends and hang out with them. I mean, in general, it was positive, but then I was the only one who had volunteer work, and then the communication was could be confusing
Right.
because
Definitely.
one of them, I mean, there was this book English, there was miscommunication between one intern supervisor and that, and yeah, well, actually, two of them had the same supervisor, and she was a PhD fellow, and so she was doing on her research, and those two interns were part of her. And well, actually, this PhD fellow didn't really have experience in water quality, so that intern had to like rely like on everything she could go up and try to look everything herself as best as she could. And the climate change intern, the supervisor had experience in that, and especially the program or the department. So that was that. So I would say it was positive.
Yeah,
For me,
my
mean,
cohort had a
yeah.
super amazing experience too.
Mhm.
I just think that the main feedback was that a lot of people didn't go into structured positions, which I think is what we had expected, and that presented a challenge, especially to those who went into the internship not really having an idea about where they wanted to go in their career or what their interests were. It just kind of provided an extra little bit of a barrier. I think that my location in Vietnam, we actually ended up getting a lot of opportunities and making a lot of really good friends, and they helped us. They helped us out a lot too because there were a lot of English students, so they could translate for us and connect us to their friends. So we had a really big social life component where we were, and we always felt safe and everything like that. So yeah, it was like an excellent. Like I still miss Vietnam every day, and it's been 2 years. Like
No, actually, I will add on. Actually, those three interns, they knew exactly what they wanted for their career, so for them it was perfect. For me, I have too many interests. For me, like this is interesting. If they gave me freedom of doing whatever I wanted, so I just go through my own interest and just go through it. So it was interesting. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, and Lisa.
right, yeah. So yeah, any questions?
Yeah.
Any questions here? Yes, no, maybe so. But yeah, so hopefully the cohorts open again soon because it's a really amazing program. The IEP umbrella is not just with Memorial University. So if you are interested in the environment, or if you're interested in law or gender or community development or engagement, there are projects available for you. I know that the United Nations Association in Canada also has an IEP program that works more on like education and policy kind of work. So that's another way that you can approach this international development, environmental science kind of point of view within this internship program, but not necessarily with Memorial University. like we did. So before you go, they fly you out to Newfoundland, and there you have an orientation for about 5 days with other people in your cohort. So you get to meet everybody before you go, and you also get to be acquainted with those 3 or 4 people that you're going to be living with for the next 6 months. So it's a little bit buffer time. They also give you some training, some like cultural diversity training and sensitivity training. Another thing that often happened was you go through these emotional phases where you're like really excited and then you're a little bit sad because you're away from home and the culture is different and you get like this culture shock period and then you go back up and you're excited again. So it's definitely a roller coaster, but a super amazing, wonderful, life-changing experience for free. So, yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say it's free, but
Okay, it's free to do everything, and then if you have to pay more than what they give you, then you have to pay. But
it depends on the
my
location.
cohort, we definitely had more than enough money to do everything.
Yep.
Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, we are going to end this discussion for today. But please feel free if you do have any questions about the program or our experience to directly message us or message us through the Sibin Facebook or email or Instagram or anything. Do you have any concluding comments, Yoko?
I mean, you said everything, so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today, and yeah, be sure to apply. The application isn't very hard. You just need a couple references and write a little bit of a letter, and yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.